Good stuff. Well, here we are in Mexico on a random rooftop somewhere, and I'm joined once more by Ege, charming man. How are you, sir?
Good, how are you?
Very good, very good. Good to see you. So, what I wanted to do in this video is talk a bit about energy vampires, and we'll do some like definitions and maybe some tips for guys and so on. Because I did a video about this the other day, because it's been something that's been on my mind recently. And it's been actually been on my mind for the last probably over a year or so. Really, I've really considered the fact that when you date somebody, when you're like intimately involved, spending intimate time with a woman, I used to not give it a second thought. I basically just let anybody come through the door and whatever. But then you realise actually their energy is really affecting you, isn't it? And sometimes that energy can be quite heavy and quite negative, and that I think is something that's actually quite damaging for guys. So, and I know that you obviously do a lot of work in terms of like spirituality and meditation and other sorts of practices. So I thought you'd be an interesting person to sort of sound off about this. So, I mean, what are your thoughts about this subject?
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned this is something you've been thinking about more recently, because I'd say for the past few months, it's something I've been really paying attention to.
Yeah.
And a couple of weeks ago, I had an experience that really put this to the forefront, because basically I was in Guadalajara in Mexico, just walking from my place to get a coffee. And there was this girl who was at the restaurant who worked like 2 streets away, and I just see her every day. And she was quite cute, but my golden rule is, you know, if you're living in this area, you're there for a few months, like a long time, you don't want to be messing around with girls who are very close to where you live, because most likely they will see you walking with people, and you don't want that drama. But I was about to leave to come here, so this girl stops me, and she literally just ran her game, and she's like, I want you to take me out.
Wow.
And I thought, well, she's cute, so why not?
Elite level game. They come
Yeah. And the interesting thing was, at that point, she seemed quite charming. Like, I didn't get a bad vibe from her straight away. But when we met, things were a bit off. But I thought, oh well, it's just easy, you know. Let's make it happen. It's nothing to think about too much. And then the week after, I was in this state where I was feeling a bit more down, a bit more like more tendencies to be frustrated and angry. And I took a step back and I thought, these feelings are truly not coming from me. Like, I've been in a really good mood for the past few weeks because I was coming from a meditation retreat. And then I realized, you know, it was her energy literally just coming into my life. And as you said, when you meet someone who's an energy vampire, that energy that you have just gets almost like mixed in and a bit damaged. So it's so important to protect who you let into your life. But I guess first, what would you say is the definition of an energy vampire?
I was just about to ask you the same thing. And I mean, there are sort of more technical definitions, aren't there? I mean, I've heard of the cluster B personality type, which includes narcissism and various other nasty or not particularly pleasant character traits. But I suppose the way that I'm using it, and maybe I don't know if you agree or not, I guess the way I'm using it is somebody who, well, quite simply sucks energy out away from you rather than gives energy. And actually, I think in a healthy relationship, in a good relationship, ideally you want to feel energized when you're with that person. And I mean, I was telling you the story. I mean, I met somebody a while back, and you know, very sweet girl, very charming girl and everything, but super chaotic, like a lot of stuff going on there. I think a lot of baggage and everything like that. And it's kind of like very quickly you can feel yourself being drawn into their mental state, or there's a sort of transference. Like there's a sort of transference of that energy that they're emanating towards you. And I mean, like I say, in the days when you're just running around and you just want to date, you just want to get intimate with girls, and maybe you're looking for a bit of validation as well, perhaps you can push that to one side or disregard that. But as I've gone on, I've started to realize, actually, hang on a minute, this is really important. And when you think about it, when you're interacting with a woman, that is the most intimate, really, you're going to be with anybody in a way, isn't it? Because even with friends, you're not going to, well, for the, I don't know what you and Tusk get up to, but I mean, you're not going to be really like sharing a bed with friends and like all those intimate moments and stuff like that. With a woman, you're really letting them in, even if you're not seeing her full time, but you're really letting her in for a period of time, and that, like, there's a maximum opportunity for the energy to transfer, isn't there?
Exactly, and especially when you have a sexual experience with a girl, when you penetrate her physically, you also penetrate her energetically. But that energy also comes into you. And I think it's one of those things you start realizing after you've had a lot of experiences with women. Because at the beginning, you're just like, this is great. Let's keep going for as long as we can. But then what you start realizing is when you have an experience with a girl and you share this intimate space, as you mentioned, that energies really blend in together. And if the girl's energy is more chaotic, more drama, more negative, there's things going on in her life, because most people don't do work proactively to protect their level of peace. Like they might have, especially a lot of women, right? They might have drama with their friend, drama at work, drama with their family. And if this is the energy they bring in, and you spend intimate time with this energy then carries on to your life. And it affects your life in ways where if you didn't have that experience, you would actually be better off. No matter how tempting it is to just go, oh, well, whatever, just one time, it's not going to hurt. But I've started realizing even if you do that one time, there's still this exchange that carries over. And I think it's important to be very mindful of that.
I mean, do you think that, because I was going to say how do guys prevent this happening, but I've got a suspicion that, and you actually described it in the story that you told, I reckon we usually kind of have an intuition very early on that there's something a little bit off here. But and that probably, I would say, is the case with the woman that I'm talking about. We probably kind of know from the off something's a little bit off, but we kind of let it slide because we're trying to be polite, or she's really pretty and we just want to get with her anyway, or whatever.
Or it's like an easy opportunity.
So we kind of go with it. But I suppose what I'm saying is that you should be mindful of, I mean, gut instinct is so important, isn't it? If you've got that gut instinct about somebody, something's not quite right up front, maybe that's the sign that you should try and disengage from it.
And I think a lot of us get into this journey because we've had trouble attracting the woman that we want. So when we become the guy, and sometimes you get a lot of interest with women, it might be very easy to tell yes to them. Rather than actually understand, wait, I have the power to say no as well. Like you get so sucked in to this way of just going to this outcome that you want that you forget that you could actually say no to a girl and let her out of your life.
Exactly. Well, funny enough, I saw a quote which I put on my Instagram story here, which is a kind of like a very cheesy mainstream sort of, kind of thing you get on Instagram. But it says, best dating advice I ever got from my mum was, the signs you ignore in the beginning just end up being the reason you leave later. You know right away who's good and bad for you. Don't ignore that. Which kind of, it makes sense, doesn't it?
Mom's right.
Exactly. So whoever's mum that was, or whatever AI generated mum that is. And I mean, I suppose finally, if a guy is in some sort of relationship, or he's seeing a girl and he just feels like the vibe is wrong, I mean, what advice would you have for him? Just to try and disengage, right? Or, how do you get out of that kind of thing?
I think first of all, no matter what's been going on, you can be in control of your state. So focus your attention on things that are more positive. And if that means you have to take time away from this person, that's what you need to do. Even if you're in a relationship, maybe like your girlfriend is quite chaotic and you need space away from that. So you go for a walk, I don't know what floats your boat, you pet some dogs, you listen to some good music, whatever makes you feel positive. The more you put yourself into that state of being, the more that becomes your default state of being. But in the end, understand that the best way to get rid of this is to just remove this person from your life, no matter how tempting it is to keep this person in your life for various other reasons. Like I think this is another issue as well that's somewhat related. Sometimes someone's really good on paper. Like you see the potential in them and you're like, wow, this person's actually has got so much potential. But when you're around them, the energies just don't blend in together. You constantly have friction.
Yeah.
You constantly have drama, chaos. No matter what you do, it's not because you lack communication skills that this is happening. It's because your energies are just not very compatible.
Right, yeah. No, absolutely. And I think that's true. And I think what you're saying, ultimately, you need to get away from this helicopter, but also you need to disengage ultimately, because as it says in that quote, or as it implies in that quote, you kind of know up front it's going to end up coming to some sort of an end anyway, and you need to, you know, for your own sake, you need to disengage if your gut is telling you this isn't quite right, and that's happened to me a number of times over the past, you know, couple of years, and it's something I'm a lot more mindful of now anyway, so I thought it'd be good to talk about this topic. But anyway, with that being said, where can they find you?
Yeah, if you want to see more of my content, my YouTube channel is The Charming Man. So just search that on YouTube or link below, and you guys can find me there.
Good stuff. And please subscribe, like the video, leave us a comment, etc., etc. And if you want to jump on a quick free call with me to discuss your dating life, the link for that is below as well. See you again very soon. Bye-bye.
Perfect.